gravando, tá me ouvindo? Qual é o canal do inglês? Não, eu não tenho canal 1 aqui. 2. Sim? Não, eu acho que não vai. Tá, o de cima, Samuel, esse botão aqui de baixo é o volume. Esse aqui é o canal. A gente não vai usar o canal 1. Você vai poder ficar aí o tempo todo? Tá bom. Tá ótimo. Esse aqui tava funcionando, você tá falando. E aí só precisa. Aí você não vai precisar falar pra todo mundo, né? Você vai falar no aparelhinho. Ótimo. Tá, beleza. Valeu.
We do one once.
Just once.
Is that one? Okay. Good morning, esteemed colleagues and guests. If we can take our seats, we're about to start. Thank you. morning to everybody. My name is Jurgens Duisel. I'm from the National Disaster Management Center in South Africa. I'm currently in a position acting. I would like to start the program by a brief safety video. If I can just ask the program to play a safety video so that we know if there is an emergency what we need to do. Thank you.
Welcome to the Durban ICC, where the world meets Africa. As a leading world-class events facility, we make your safety our number one priority. Please give us your attention for a few minutes to take you through some important health and safety information. As the Durban ICC is a public space, please remember to keep your personal belongings safe and with you at all times. We have many bathrooms for you to use around the venue. They are clearly marked in the foyer and concourse areas. The Durban ICC is a smoke-free building, but we do have clearly marked smoking zones outside the main entrance and in the courtyards opposite the concourse. Please make use of these areas and the ashtrays provided when you smoke. In the event of a medical emergency, please dial the emergency number 031 360 1111 for assistance. The Durban ICC has developed a very simple emergency evacuation plan that everyone must be familiar with. Our staff are specially trained and will be there to assist you in following this plan. In the event of an evacuation, an announcement will be made to leave the venue. Please remain calm and walk swiftly to the nearest emergency exit in the concourse area. These exit doors are clearly marked. Security guards and the marshals will also help direct you out of the building. Please do not use any lifts or escalators in the event of an emergency. Once outside, you will be directed to the nearest assembly point by the marshals for your safety. Please wait at the assembly point until the venue has been cleared and a marshal deems it safe for you to return to your seats. Thank you for your time and enjoy this event.
Thank you very much. It is now my esteemed pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Mbulelo Changana, the Director General for the Department of Cooperative Governance in the National Government of South Africa. He will be the chair of the session. Mr. Changana, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning to the Mayor of eThekwini Municipality, Metropolitan Municipality, Your Lordship, Ubaba Cyril Kaba Nongosi. Member states, invited organizations, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. It is both an honor and privilege to address you today at this important convening of the G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group. Allow me to extend warm greetings on behalf of the Government of South Africa and the Department of Cooperative Governance. We gather here at a crucial juncture, facing a world where the frequency, intensity, and complexity of disasters continue to grow. From climate-induced events to urban vulnerabilities and system shocks, our communities, especially those most marginalized, are at the forefront of risks. It is precisely in this context that the role of multilateral cooperation becomes indispensable. The G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group provides a vital platform for us to share experiences, co-develop solutions, and chart pathways for a more resilient future. Our collective strength lies not only in the policies we adopt, but in the actions we take together to implement them. In South Africa, disaster risk reduction is deeply tied to the principles of cooperative governance and integrated planning. We recognize that resilience begins at the local level, in municipalities and communities that must be empowered with the resources, data, early warning systems to act swiftly and effectively. We therefore strongly support the working group's commitment to scaling up early warning coverage for all, enhancing risk governance, and investing in prevention and preparedness. In this regard, we welcome the efforts to localize the G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group, high-level principles, and to advance financing mechanisms that are accessible and inclusive. As we look beyond 2025, let us remember that disaster risk reduction is not merely a technical agenda. It is a development imperative. It speaks to equity, justice, and sustainability. And it requires our unwavering commitment, political will, and solidarity. Let me close by expressing our appreciation to the foundation laid by the Indian presidency, which was taken forward by Brazilian presidency. Their continued dedication to this important work can never go unnoticed. We are also looking forward to putting this work into action to show tangible work that has been done since the inception of this working group. May our deliberations within these 2 days be fruitful, focused, and impactful. I thank you. Program Director, I am now going to ask that we observe a moment of silence to remember all the families, friends who have perished because of disasters. Let's observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to start stating upfront that the national head of the Disaster Management Center, Dr. Elias Sithole, is not going to join us in this meeting. I know that some of you came specifically to interact with him. Unfortunately, Dr. Sithole has lost his mother, and the funeral is today. So the acting head of Disaster Management Center in South Africa is here with us, Jürgen Beisel is currently acting. Now I'm going to hand over to the Deputy Mayor of eThekwini Municipality, Ms. Zandile Myeni, to introduce our mayor. Ms. Myeni, over to you.
Thank you, His Worship, the Mayor of eThekwini Municipality, Councillor Cyril Xaba, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Director General, Mr. Bulelo Changan, the Department of Traditional Affairs, Director General of South Africa, Mr. Zulfstrek, the Chairperson of the session and the head of the National Disaster in his absentia, the head of disaster in eThekwini, Mr. Vincent Ngubane, the head of the National Secretariat and Policy Ministry of Cities of Brazil, the Deputy Chief Intergovernmental Cooperative Partnership, the Senior Representative of the United Nations Capital Development Fund, the International Telecommunication Union Head of Climate Change and Emergency. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Sanbonan. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be part of this important engagement, the G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group. What is also exciting about this working group is that it is relevant and well-timed, since we are looking for the creative ways to mitigate and adapt to the climate change and endure the disasters. Over the past few years, eThekwini municipality has seen a recurring devastating weather event, including the floods, severe storms, and tornadoes, which all left the train to distract the damaging infrastructure and claiming lives. However, we are happy that during this period, we have been able to boost our partnership with the relevant stakeholders, such as the community structures, business, academic institutions, and expect to build a climate resilient city. We must state that we thank the leadership and the role played by our mayor and his executive in that we have been able to galvanize the social partners to come together and to last the solution. While our mayor, Mr. Cyril Xaba, is yet to finish his first year at the helm of the vision and commitment of the city, but we can say to you, indeed, the city is moving forward. I am honored to present to you the mayor of eThekwini municipality, who has served in various government, who's also serve also in the community structures. I am here to present to you His Worship Councillor Cyril Xaba, the Mayor of eThekwini, the Durban. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Program Director, Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Director General, Mr. Mbulelo Changane, Department of Traditional Affairs, Director General, Mr. Dipofa Mashwashe, Head of Disaster Management in eThekwini Municipality, Mr. Vincent Nkobane, Head of the National Secretariat for Policies for Peripheral Territories, Ministry of Cities, Brazil, Mr. Guilherme Simus, Deputy Chief, Intergovernmental, Interagency Cooperation and Partnerships Branch, United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, Dr. Abhilash Panda, senior representatives of the United Nations Capital Development Fund, Mr. Akrosh Mukereji, heads of delegations, invited delegations, member states, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me pleasure to welcome you to this crucial meeting of the G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group. We are indeed excited as the city of Durban to be part of the build-up activities towards the much anticipated G20 summit in November, the first of its kind on the African soil. When South Africa assumed the presidency of this body, comprising of 19 world's largest economies, it brought hope to millions of people on the continent because it sent a message that Africa matters. Ladies and gentlemen, we have no doubt that South Africa is going to deliver the most successful and memorable summit later this year. We are pleased that the theme of South Africa's G20 presidency is solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Clearly, this summit will offer a unique opportunity to showcase Africa's perspective, innovations, and leadership in disaster risk management, while reinforcing the need for a united global response to shared challenges. As the leadership of the city, we want to thank the Department of Cooperative Governance through the National Disaster Management Center for partnering with us to host the Group 20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group technical meetings. We are happy that this technical meeting will focus on the following key issues: the importance of global solidarity in risk reduction, in disaster risk reduction; 2, advocating for fair and just distribution of resources and support to ensure that the most at-risk populations receive the necessary investments to reduce vulnerability to disasters; 3, promoting long-term investments that not only reduce disaster risk, but also enhance long-term resilience, environmental sustainability, and economic stability. As a eThekwini municipality, we are addressing the twin challenges of climate change, adaptation, and mitigation through the Durban Climate Change Strategy, which aims to achieve inclusive climate resilience with net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. A key component of the strategy is disaster risk reduction. To assist communities living within dangerously located informal settlements, the city is implementing the iKhazalethu program, which focuses on semi-formalizing settlements where this is safe and appropriate. To those who are dangerously located are being assisted to relocate to safer areas. As a city, we have recognized that funding a suitable land to relocate people from flood-prone areas might take some time. As a proactive measure, we're expanding our community-based flood early warning system. The community-based flood early warning system draws on information provided by the city's focused early warning system through real-time radar and stream telemetry inputs to provide accurate and timeless notification of dangerous river levels. This system also allows affected communities to collect important personal belongings and evacuate. For instance, during the 2022 floods, the community-based flood early warning system was instrumental in saving lives of people who are residing in Quarry Road informal settlements. Despite over 120 dwellings being washed away in the area, no life was lost during flooding. This underscores the importance of partnerships in responding to disaster situations, as well as ensuring vulnerable communities have access to reliable information. This allows these communities to promptly make decisions about their own safety. We have assembled a project team to work on expanding the community-based flood early warning system to all informal settlements located in floodplains. It is important to indicate that a key cause of flooding during extreme weather events in the city is the blockage of bridges and culverts by debris dislodged by flood waters in drainage line. During the April 2022 floods, we saw time and again how the flow of rivers through infrastructure was impeded by debris, causing the river to burst its banks and flow through adjacent settlements. To address this challenge, the city is upscaling the implementation of the transformative river management program, in which community operatives manage stretches of rivers in the city by removing alien invasive plants and plastic waste, which account for most of the blockages at culverts. By doing so, water flows freely through our infrastructure, resulting in less damage. At the same time, through this project, we have been able to create much-needed employment in communities living alongside the rivers. Currently, the project has over 500 community members engaged in cooperatives in various areas around Durban, managing approximately 600 kilometers of river. If we can upscale this project to cover our 7,300 kilometers of rivers in the city, we could protect lives, create over 9,000 jobs, and save over 9 billion rand in flood damages over a 20-year period. So as a city, we really need additional funding to upscale such programs. Being a coastal city, eThekwini also must contend with the issue of sea level rise. To this end, the city has a set of clearly defined sea level rise scenarios and is implementing the Integrated Coastal Management Act through the development of a set of municipal coastal management lines that are integrated with provincial and national lines as required by the Act. eThekwini is also blessed to have a Durban Metropolitan Open Space System consisting of wetlands, forest, and dune sands that provide protection from storms and floods. As a city, we are committed to continue to protect these natural assets. Finally, as part of our disaster risk reduction strategies, we are collaborating with social partners to build infrastructure that will increase our flood resilience. I'm aware that some of you had an opportunity to visit some of our infrastructure projects in the south, where we're building back better to minimize the future impact of floods. We are confident that this meeting will yield desired outcomes that will help us reduce disaster risk and ensure long-term environmental and economical sustainability of our countries. With those words, I wish to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Lordship, the Mayor of the city of eThekwini. At this stage, we are going to ask the Mayor of eThekwini to lead us in greeting the King of the Zulu Kingdom. We do it in a traditional way. We are in the kingdom of KwaZulu-Natal. So we're going to ask the Mayor to lead us in greeting the King.
I will request all males to rise. Wena wendlovu,
Wena wendlovu,
wena wendlovu,
wena wendlovu,
bayete,
bayete,
bayete.
bayete.
Thank you very much. You may take your seats.
Thank you very much, Your Lordship. And we're now going to move to the next item, and we're going to ask Mr. Guilherme Simos, who is the head of the National Secretariat for Policies for Peripheral Territories, Ministry of Cities in Brazil. Mr. Guilherme, over to you, sir.
Boa tarde, bom dia a todos e todas, senhoras e senhores. Fala.
Please, you can access interpretation on channel 1.
Tem gente que está sem. Prezado Chair, senhor Changana, peço que envie nossos sentimentos ao senhor Citoli. Eu gostaria de agradecer inicialmente ao nosso anfitrião, a África do Sul, pela recepção e organização do evento. Senhora prefeita, vice-prefeita, senhor prefeito, queria saudar também os representantes dos países membros do G20, os países convidados, também os representantes da sociedade civil, da academia e das organizações internacionais aqui presentes. Em nossa primeira reunião presencial, gostaria de reforçar o trabalho que vem sendo feito de continuidade e fortalecimento da agenda de redução de risco de desastres no G20, que nos posiciona de forma estratégica no caminho de efetivação das metas do Marco de Sendai. A presidência indiana construiu um plano de trabalho com temas prioritários para o nosso grupo. A presidência brasileira ratificou e complementou esse legado, propondo o combate à desigualdade para reduzir vulnerabilidade como prioridade transversal e que é tema central na nossa declaração ministerial aprovada no ano passado. Esse ano, a presidência sul-africana cumpre um papel estratégico de continuidade para a implementação dos compromissos da nossa declaração. Ressaltamos aqui a aderência dos 3 eixos de trabalho da presidência da África do Sul: igualdade, solidariedade e sustentabilidade, com o trabalho realizado pela presidência do Brasil. Também ressaltamos o trabalho estruturado e ambicioso dos produtos que serão elaborados este ano sob a coordenação sul-africana deste grupo. A produção dos documentos relativos a cada uma das 6 prioridades indica o compromisso dos membros deste grupo em fortalecer nacionalmente políticas, ações e investimentos em redução de risco de desastre. Mas também demonstram nosso compromisso de comunicar internacionalmente diretrizes que possam fomentar resultados positivos na construção de capacidade de adaptação e resiliência para que alcancemos de forma ampla as metas até 2030 do Marco de Sendai. A perspectiva brasileira de gestão integral de risco de desastres ressalta o enfoque da prevenção e da priorização das populações mais vulneráveis. Dessa forma, podemos avançar de forma justa e efetiva, considerando as diversidades e as especificidades locais para a agenda de adaptação climática inclusiva. Reforçamos aqui o apoio e a disposição do governo brasileiro, como membro do G20 e parte da Troika, em apoiar a presidência sul-africana na condução do grupo de trabalho de redução de risco de desastre do G20. O G20 pode liderar um novo ciclo de transformação para que a gestão de risco de desastres esteja no centro das estratégias de adaptação climática e justiça social, com foco em prevenção. Em junho, acontecerá a 8ª sessão da Plataforma Global de Redução de Risco de Desastre, evento que está no cronograma de trabalho deste grupo. Os países do G20 podem e devem ser referência. Em novembro, receberemos no Brasil a 30ª Conferência das Nações Unidas sobre as Mudanças Climáticas, COP30. E certamente reforçaremos os compromissos assumidos aqui no G20. Estamos à disposição para colaborar e abertos ao aprendizado mútuo. Desejo a todos nós um ótimo trabalho nesses 2 dias de reunião técnica. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simos. Another member of the Troika is United States of America. In Pretoria, they were represented, in our first meeting, they were represented by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Unfortunately, today, they are not represented. We're going to move to the next item and ask Dr. Bilash Panda from UNDRR to pass some message of greetings. Dr. Panda, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Please allow me to also thank the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, the Director Generals present here, our gracious hosts, South Africa, and all distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends, for convening this very important meeting of the G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group. We would also like to take this opportunity to share our condolences to all the families who have lost in the tragedy of Myanmar, but also at other disasters and events that have unfolded recently. Chair, you have set a strong and clear path for our work ahead this year. But let me also thank Brazil for their strong support through the Troika, to India for taking the leadership in establishing this working group, and all of your continued support for bringing this conversation to the point. I also wish to warmly welcome and acknowledge and thank all the knowledge partners who are today present here in this room, and those who unfortunately could not join us in person. Their continued contributions are central to translating ideas into action, and your partnership makes this working group further stronger. This G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group meets at a time when the stakes are high and rising. We know that disasters and complex risks are increasing in frequency, severity, and systemic impact. The South African presidency has put forward a bold and thoughtful agenda, rooted in the principles of solidarity, equality, and sustainability. These are not only the foundations of effective risk governance, but also values that resonate deeply as we seek to advance real progress for the Sendai framework and to ensure no one is left behind. As the secretariat to this working group, United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction is proud to inform and appreciate the collective effort of all the knowledge partners to help drive forward the 6 priorities and 7 key deliverables outlined in the Presidency's issue note. We particularly welcome the emphasis on practical guidance, tools, and frameworks that are grounded to provide support to the most at need. From identifying options to address the protection gap, ensuring early warning systems reach the most at-risk communities, to developing a robust recovery readiness framework, to exploring the foundational principles of DRR financing, and to bring infrastructure resilience at the heart of the conversation. Today's technical discussions are a critical opportunity to shape these tools together and strengthen disaster risk reduction at all levels. Let me underscore the importance of having these conversations within the G20. As the world's leading economic forum, the G20 is uniquely positioned to champion disaster risk reduction, not only as a humanitarian imperative, but as an economic one. Disasters have far-reaching impacts on growth, stability, and development gains. By embedding disaster risk reduction into the G20's economic agenda, we have the opportunity to drive smarter investments, protect livelihoods, and build more resilient economies for future. We are also inspired by the significance of this meeting taking place on the African continent. Africa brings not only its challenges, but also its innovation, leadership, and community wisdom to the table. This G20 is not only hosted in Africa, it is a chance to bring Africa to the G20 and ensure its voice and solutions help shape global action. As we move into the technical sessions, we look forward to rich discussions and ambitious thinking. Together, we look forward to continue to turn dialogue into delivery and ensure this working group remains a driving force for risk-informed, inclusive development. Thank you, and I wish we all a productive meeting. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Panda. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Dr. Panda and his UNDRR team are providing all the necessary technical and secretariat support for this work. And that concludes part one of our program. We're going to move now to part two of our program and focus specifically on priority one, which is addressing inequalities and reducing vulnerabilities. And at this stage, we are going to ask Mr. Agrotosh Mokeji, the senior representative of UNCDF. Mr. Mokeji.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm representing UNCDF in this session. So, yes. So basically, I just want to take us through some of the work that UNCDF has been doing. So this is the United Nations Capital Development Fund related to risk transfer. And specifically, I will focus on the work being done on parametric insurance or climate risk insurance, as well as some of the other risk transfer tools. There is also a compendium which the UNCDF has been working on for the last few months, and I'll be talking more about that as well. So I'll just go through a brief presentation and present some of the key findings from that. So essentially, just to remind ourselves, what we are talking about here is different risk management strategies. And as we know, there is, I won't go into all the details, but you have risk avoidance, risk reduction, and of course, risk retention and risk transfer. So it's these two elements of risk retention and risk transfer, specifically risk transfer, which is going to be our main focus going forward, like from the work that UNCDF has been doing. But of course, recognizing the importance for risk avoidance and risk reduction as well. And you can see these risk management strategies really relate to how, in terms of the expected frequency of the risks and expected severity or impact of the risks. So when it comes to risk transfer, what we're talking about is tools like insurance, catastrophe bonds, and other tools like contingency reserves, for example, which can be used as part of risk transfer. So I'll give a few examples of this. Of course, risk retention, it's also closely linked because it could be that individuals, households, or businesses or governments choose to retain some of the risks, and there are different ways of doing it through savings or disaster loans and so on. But when it comes to risk transfer, the tools that we see working, or which might be, of course, there's a lot of room for improvement further. At the micro, meso, and macro level are the following. So within the micro level, there is quite a lot of experiences now on climate risk insurance being done, including microinsurance, inclusive insurance, and within that, agriculture insurance as well. And also generally insurance related to disaster risks. So UNCDF has done a lot of work in the Pacific region, where their focus has been on risks to do with cyclones, excessive rainfall, storms, and so on, both in terms of the impact of such events on agriculture and on small-scale farmers, but also on infrastructure and on micro, small, and medium enterprises, and so on. But these tools can also be applied at the meso level, so where essentially such risk transfer tools are purchased by, let's say, banks or microfinance institutions, agribusinesses, local governments, as well as governments, of course, both locally and centrally. So as we know, there is initiatives like the Africa Risk Capacity going on in several countries where it's a framework essentially of parametric insurance, with the focus has been on drought, but other risks like flooding and storms are also being insured in recent years. And where the governments take up these policies, be it from Ministry of Finance or the representatives from the disaster management units and so on. So these are some of the kind of tools which become relevant. And within, I mean, just to go into a little bit of detail, I know the print is very small, but just to explain what exactly we mean when we talk about parametric and index insurance. So there are many types of index insurance. I'll just focus a bit on weather index, which is arguably the most common type. So essentially what these products are doing is ensuring bad weather events. So it could be to do with drought, flooding, storms, and lots of variations in terms of what types of events can be insured. Typically, the data being used for developing such products and implementing them is satellite data, but it's also possible to use weather station data and data from river gorges and so on. But usually a lot of satellite data has been deployed for developing such products. And the idea is that in such policies, be it at the micro, meso, or macro level, the parameters are clearly defined from the outset. So if we're talking about, let's say, a drought, it's very clearly defined what is meant by a drought, be it in terms of rainfall levels or soil moisture levels, and so on. And as soon as that event occurs, a specific payout would be due, be it to the farmers if they are being insured directly, or households, or to businesses and governments, depending on who the policyholder is. So in this process, there's no need for the policyholder to report claims or to prove there is a loss. There is also no need for the insurance or reinsurance companies to physically verify losses. It's purely automated based on the weather data in the case of weather index. The same logic is also applied with other types of indices like yield index, for example, where the index is based on the average yield of a particular crop. It can also be based on storm signals and so on. So the same concept can apply for other types of index insurance products. So in this process, there are a number of advantages. There are some downsides as well, but there's quite a few advantages, such as the speed of the payouts, which can happen very quickly. So as I think many of us are aware, in 2023, 24, due to the effects of the El Nino, there were very severe drought conditions experienced in southern Africa. I live in Zambia myself, and you could see how the drought affected not just agriculture, but all other sectors, literally, including the energy sector, because Zambia is heavily reliant on hydroelectricity, which was very severely affected by the drought. So the point is, when it comes to these types of products, the payouts happened within a couple of months of the event occurring, which is quite quick compared to some of the other types of products where the claims verifications are still going on as we speak. So that's certainly an advantage, that with weather index, the payouts can happen very quickly. And this can, of course, in the context of agriculture or for households, if they receive a payout quickly, they can replant again, or they can take measures to deal with the effects of the shock. And the information itself is also shared, between the different parties. So everyone is on the same page, as it were, on the data, be it the households being insured, the government, the regulators, as well as the insurance and reinsurance companies. Of course, the meteorological departments in different countries have a key role to play in this as well. Even if it's satellite data being used, they have a key role as custodians of weather data. So moving on quickly to just to point out, there's a number of other types of products, which I won't go into right now, but essentially these are all types of insurance contracts which could be applied to households and also to businesses and governments. So you have products such as yield index there as well. You have insurance dealing with weather index, as I mentioned, but also to do with non-meteorological shocks. So there are some contracts, some schemes which have been implemented globally, looking at risks to do with volcanic eruptions, to do with tsunamis, earthquakes. It's quite common for earthquake-based parametric insurance, which was implemented in Morocco in the last year or so and led to severe, large payouts. So the point is, a lot of the disaster risks we're talking about can potentially be, addressed through such parametric approaches. And then just moving on to the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, these types of products can be implemented at the micro level, where really the beneficiaries are small-scale farmers or households, but they can also be done at the meso level for companies, banks, microfinance institutions, NGOs, and so on, and of course at the macro level as well. So a quick example of a meso-level product would be the kind of initiatives that organizations like Oxfam, World Food Programme have been implementing for a number of years in countries like Bangladesh, in Kenya, where they take out flood index insurance in certain high flood risk areas. The rationale being that when the severe floods take place, they receive a payout from the insurance and reinsurance companies, and they use that for financing flood disaster relief. So that's an example where these types of products are actually being, it can potentially be used for financing the costs to do with dealing with the effects of major floods, for example. And then there's a number of other points of difference, but I won't go into that right now in the interest of time. So just to move ahead just to point out that when it comes to these types of products, there is also, of course, a lot of benefits for the household level in terms of potential benefits, such as livelihood protection. Also, beyond that, if small-scale farmers or households, MSMEs are being insured, they actually can potentially get better access to financing, potentially at better terms, and also potentially better access to inputs, to off-takers, and so on. So there is this whole, potentially productive benefit of having suitable insurance products, which can be leveraged on further. And when it comes to the businesses as well, there's a number of potential benefits to do with, again, reducing some of the risks that they experience, especially the weather-related risks, for example, or the aggregate shocks that can affect areas. And also, such products can actually help the businesses to have a potentially better relationship with their customers, potentially have a stronger contractual relationship, and potentially also be able to disburse more investments, to actually invest more in areas where such risks are quite relevant. So these are some of the potential benefits for both at the micro and the meso level. So finally, just to wrap up in the last 1 or 2 minutes, so the UNCDF has been working on this risk compendium, which some of you might be aware of. And just to give you a sort of a quick preview of the types of topics which are being addressed. So we're looking at the differences between these different types of products, both indemnity-based, which is the more traditional insurance models, which is typically very difficult to apply for small-scale farmers or for micro, small enterprises. But we're looking at the applicability of that as well as parametric and index insurance. We also covering the key differences between the different types of parametric insurance. We're looking at the products both at the micro, meso, and macro level, and also looking at related topics to do with inclusive insurance, microinsurance, role of digitalization in this, how this is compliant with takaful principles in cases where that's relevant. And also we're looking at cases of nature positive insurance schemes. There are some initiatives going on where such insurance schemes are being used in conservation. There are some initial initiatives looking at how these schemes can be applied to deal with issues of human-wildlife conflict, and also for ensuring natural resources such as forests and coral reefs and so on. So yeah, and then of course there's quite a few technical topics we are looking at, including basis risk. There will of course be a special focus on marginalized groups as well. And then of course also looking at more from the beyond insurance, looking at other types of initiatives to do with the guarantee facility, for example. So this is an initiative that the UNCDF is also implementing on an insurance guarantee facility, and also the role of catastrophe bonds, special purpose vehicles, risk pools, and so on. So finally, just to touch upon the point that, so the UNCDF is working on this insurance guarantee facility as well as a premium financing facility that will make it easier potentially for local insurance companies to take on more of the risk in addition to the risk they currently take on and the reinsurance they currently have, and also scope for premiums to be paid on behalf of the customers and recovered from the businesses afterwards. So this is an initiative that is ongoing, and it should be finalized within the next few months. And finally, there's just the last point is a new initiative that has also started with the UNDRR and the UNU EHS. This is to do with the Climate Insurance and Resilience Program. And there are different pillars here to do with policy and advocacy, looking at different types of climate disaster risk financing solutions, and also looking at the different insights that we have on climate risks and financing insights. So yeah, so I think I'll stop there in the interest of time, but very happy to take questions and have discussion on these very important points afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mukherjee from the UN Capital Development Fund. I've noted the mayor of eThekwini has taken a keen interest in this presentation as part of his risk reduction strategies. We all know that most national revenue funds will not cope with the financing of disasters. So this proposed weather index insurance is something that can be explored by most countries to mitigate the risks of disasters and to reduce the risk and the burden on the National Revenue Fund. We're going to go to the members of Troika at this stage, and then we'll move to open up the discussion or give members of G20, member states, and invited member states and organization an opportunity to comment. But before we do that, we'll start with Brazil and ask again Mr. Simos to comment.
Obrigado, senhor presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Prioridade 1, proposta ano passado pela presidência brasileira e aprovada por unanimidade por este grupo,
Priority number 1, proposed last year by the Brazilian presidency and unanimously approved by this group,
reforça o nosso entendimento de que a gestão de risco é também uma gestão social que integra o combate à desigualdade como parte integrante da redução das vulnerabilidades e construção de resiliência frente aos riscos de desastres cada vez mais intensos e recorrentes pelos efeitos das mudanças do clima.
reinforces our understanding that risk management is also social management that integrates the fight against inequality as an integral part of reducing vulnerabilities and building resilience in the face of increasingly intense and recurrent disaster risks due to the effects of climate change.
Estratégias relacionadas à transferência de renda são fundamentais para reduzir essas desigualdades e construir capacidade de enfrentamento das populações, especialmente as mais vulneráveis.
Income transfer strategies are key to reducing these inequalities and building the coping capacity of populations, especially the most vulnerable.
Essas estratégias foram amplamente reforçadas pela Aliança Global contra a Fome e a Pobreza, lançado ano passado pelo presidente Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, e que segue orientando os nossos esforços.
These strategies have greatly reinforced the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, launched last year by President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, and which continues to guide our efforts.
A prioridade 1 nos coloca o papel das ações de prevenção para reduzir ou mesmo eliminar os riscos, considerando as pessoas mais vulneráveis como prioridade.
Priority 1 gives us the role of preventative actions to reduce or even eliminate risks by prioritizing the most vulnerable people.
Nos coloca também o compromisso de garantir a vida dessas pessoas e, mais ainda, o direito a elas de permanecerem onde vivem com dignidade, qualidade de vida e infraestrutura urbana segura.
It also gives us the commitment to guarantee the lives of these people and, even more so, their right to remain where they live, ensuring dignity, quality of life, and safe urban infrastructure.
No Brasil, o Ministério das Cidades, que aqui represento, tem investido em diferentes medidas de infraestrutura, como obras de drenagem, contenção de encostas, soluções baseadas na natureza, urbanização de favelas, produção de moradias para este fim, assim como investido em medidas de planejamento e comunicação, para que os municípios identifiquem as áreas em situação de risco, em geral, associadas a áreas marginalizadas e assentamentos precários.
In Brazil, the Ministry of Cities, which I represent, has invested different infrastructure measures such as drainage works, slope containment, nature-based solutions, slum urbanization, housing production for this purpose, as well as investing in planning and communication measures so that the municipalities identify areas at risk, usually associated with marginalized areas and precarious settlements, and prioritize resources for these places.
Entre 2023 e 2025, já foram investidos mais de 2 bilhões de dólares para esse fim no Brasil.
Between 2020 and 2022, more than $20 billion was invested to this end in Brazil.
A redução de vulnerabilidades precisa significar redução de desigualdade, em especial desigualdade em infraestrutura urbana, quando falamos de assentamentos precários e favelas, que estão nos locais mais expostos e com população mais vulnerável.
It also gives us the commitment to guarantee the lives of those people and even more so the right to remain where they live, ensuring dignity, quality of life and safe urbanization.
O objetivo é, de forma preventiva, eliminar os riscos e não as pessoas.
So we need to eliminate the risks and not the people.
A redução de riscos deve estar alinhada às políticas de desenvolvimento urbano, proteção social e justiça ambiental, promovendo uma abordagem integrada e centrada nas pessoas.
Risk reduction must be aligned with urban development, social protection and environmental justice policies, promoting an integrated, people-centered approach.
Nesse sentido, o Brasil defende que a redução de desigualdades deve ser tratada como prioridade transversal em todas as fases da gestão de riscos de desastres, contribuindo para sistemas mais justos, resilientes e sustentáveis.
In the sense, Brazil argues that the reduction of inequalities should be treated as a transversal priority in all phases of disaster risk management, contributing to fairer, more resilient and sustainable systems.
Muito obrigado.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simos, who is a member of Troika. We're now going to invite G20 member states to comment, 2 minutes each. We will acknowledge you by raising the flag. Is it the flag or this? Yes. So we'll invite G20 member states at this stage to comment. Can I ask members of the Secretariat to assist us in identifying the countries and the flags that are up? Or we'll do it in alphabetical order. And start with the African Union. Please assist us to keep the time. If you can make all your comments in 2 minutes, we'll be very happy. But we're going to start with the African Union, and we'll deal with it alphabetically. From African Union, we'll move along that line. Please help us because I can't see that far. Alphabetical. Correct. Thank you very much. Can we start with the African Union? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, representatives of the African Union member states, representatives of regional economic communities, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This priority stresses the need to strengthen capacity of vulnerable communities, the promotion of safety net programs for resilience in vulnerable communities, and the promotion for participatory and whole society approach. This will lead to inclusivity where DRR knowledge and information can be shared to all the components of society. In the implementation of its activities, the African Union prioritizes an inclusive approach to contribute to the reduction of inequalities and vulnerabilities in communities. The third biannual report on the Program of Action for the implementation of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030 in Africa indicates an increase in disaster events from 496 in 2019 to 612 in 2022. On a similar note, almost 3,000 lives were lost and $37.3 billion in economic losses reported during the period under review. To reduce disaster losses and build Africa's resilience as espoused by Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, the African Union has developed frameworks, strategies, and programs. Among these are the Urban Resilience Program, Strengthening Disaster Risk Governance in African Region, Countries, and Communities, African Multi-Hazard Early Warning and Early Action System, AMHEWAS, At the African Union Development Agency, AUDA-NEPAD, we are also working to implement these frameworks by strengthening response and resilient recovery in member states and to operationalize the African Disaster Risk Management and Recovery Platform. The hosting of the G20 on African soil presents an opportune moment to highlight the continent's unique challenges, opportunities, and innovations and their relevance to global deliberations. The African Union welcomes South Africa's presidency's commitments to building solidarity, promoting equality and sustainability, and we applaud the 6 priorities established for the G20 DRR Working Group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Can we move along the same line? And please introduce yourself and the country. We can't see that far.
Thank you, Chair. Australia, all protocols observed. Australia would in the first instance like to acknowledge the social inequalities across the emergency management continuum and reaffirm the necessity of support for groups disproportionately affected by disasters, including peoples with disabilities and First Nations. Australia has several relevant initiatives, including the Disability Inclusive Emergency Management Project underway. Substantial funding has been invested in the Disability Inclusive Emergency Management Project to date. The aim of the project is to build disability inclusive capability across the emergency management sector. Additionally, we would note that Australia's disaster recovery funding arrangements are under review currently to ensure different levels of government can quickly and appropriately respond and that communities are built back better. The DRFA is a way through which the Australian government provides funding to states and territories to share the financial burden of responding to a disaster. The review currently underway will look at how to strengthen communities after a disaster, put money into ways to lower risks, and make infrastructure stronger. Australia is supportive of this delivery in principle and congratulates South Africa's initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Australia. Can we move to the next country? Can I ask the Secretariat to project the names of the countries before they speak? The next country is Canada, correct? Yes.
Correct.
Over to you.
Good morning, Chair, member states, invited states, and international organizations. I would like to express Canada's gratitude to the Republic of South Africa for hosting this working group meeting and to all those sharing their technical expertise, experiences, and efforts throughout this week. The importance of disaster risk reduction in our current global context continues to grow, and collaborative approaches remain a priority. We remain supportive of ongoing work to address inequalities and reduce vulnerabilities, including through risk transfer solutions. Canada approaches risk transfer solutions through our National Emergency Management System. This is addressed through many levels of government as well as the private sector insurance industry. At the federal level, this includes programs such as Public Safety Canada's Disaster Financial Assistance Arrangement, which provides financial assistance through Canadian provinces and territories for post-disaster recovery. An updated version of the DFFA, this agreement, came into effect on April 1st, 2025, and the program focuses on supporting people, reducing risk, and building back more resiliently after a disaster. In terms of supporting people, the program now includes more support for at-risk communities, including extending timelines for disaster assistance from 6 months to 3 years. We look forward to hearing the perspectives of members and invited guests this week, and we will be listening for opportunities to learn and coordinate our efforts. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you very much, Canada. We're now going to move to
China.
China.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm from China, and I'm from the Embassy of China here in Pretoria. So on behalf of the headquarters of our ministry, I would like to first express our appreciation for South African government and relevant departments and City of Durban for organizing this working group meeting. And I would like to share with you China's basic perspective regarding addressing inequalities and reducing vulnerabilities. Chinese government at all levels, along with emergency management departments, place particular emphasis on prioritizing the protection of women, children, and other vulnerable groups in disaster relief efforts. Ensuring their safety and basic living needs is a key focus. These measures in practice have also been explicitly highlighted in the newly enacted Emergency Response Law. For example, in disaster rescue operations, women, children, and other vulnerable groups are given priority for evacuation and rescue and are relocated to safe areas as quickly as possible to ensure their life safety. Relief supplies are allocated to include a designated proportion of items for women and children, such as infant products and sanitary items. In post-disaster assistance, special support is provided to these vulnerable groups through enhanced relief standards and coordinated use of aid policies, ensuring focused assistance and protection. These efforts effectively safeguard the fundamental rights of women and children and ensure their basic living. Thank you.
Thank you very much, China. We're now going to move to France.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Some preliminary remarks, if I may. First, I would like to welcome this working group and the opportunity to meet quite early in our work, and to remind also that in the context of increased climate risk, this work is of utmost importance. And also probably to highlight the difficulty of having all subsequent meetings in person, so encourage to hold some of the meeting virtually or in the margin of the UNDRR global platform in June. And also, if it's possible, to better articulate of having the last DRR working group at the same time as the climate and environmental ministerial meeting, and of having the DRR ministerial several days after. We would like, just to come back to this first priority, we would like to highlight, as highlighted, in the last IPCC synthesis report, inequalities only strengthen vulnerabilities, and for that reason, France is therefore strongly supportive to this priority. We'd like also to thank the huge work made on the draft deliverables. And we'd like also to stress that the deliverable should mention the Global Shield and also the IDRIMA, the Integrated Disaster Risk Management Alliance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, France. Germany.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, congratulations to the South African presidency and the knowledge partners for organizing and elaborating the working group meeting and the comprehensive deliverables. An excellent basis for our exchange and cooperation. Germany is ready to contribute to the compendium if wished, just to mention two examples of international cooperations on two continents. The first example for the flood index insurance. There's a high-level institutional public-private partnership between UNDP, the Insurance Development Forum, and our Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. It shows how an insurance solution can benefit highly vulnerable population. The example is from Colombia, from the city of Medellin, the Medellin flood, landslide, and earthquake protection. The municipality of Medellin holds the parametric insurance policy. Potential payouts in case of flooding can be used to repair critical infrastructure or for distribution of emergency items to affected population. The second example, Mr. Mukherjee already mentioned the African risk capacity. In 2024, Ghana has purchased its first sovereign drought insurance policy to protect vulnerable communities and the agricultural sector from the impacts of drought. The policy was purchased from the African risk capacity as part of Ghana's in-country process in the context of the joint G7 V20 initiative, Global Shield Against Climate Risks. The Global Shield Solutions platform supported the government with the payment of the insurance premium, and Ghana received a payout later in 2024 in response to a drought. These are just two examples. One additional point in terms of structural barriers to accessing climate risk insurance, especially for poor communities, Germany would like to highlight that the absence of an insurance market is not the only issue. In addition to insurance availability, also accessibility and affordability of insurance play important roles in the context of inclusive insurance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. The next one is India.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. The Government of India extends its deep appreciation for your leadership in steering the priorities of disaster risk reduction through the themes of solidarity, equality, and sustainability. We particularly welcome the South African Presidency's focus on moving from dialogue to concrete solutions. In India, we are at the front line of climate risks with heat wave, droughts on one hand, and cyclones and floods on the other. It threatens the most vulnerable of our communities, particularly farmers, informal workers, and urban poor. India is actively looking at the risk transfer solutions with pool of pools, microinsurance, parametric coverage, and catastrophe bonds to move from reactive relief to proactive resilience. We are also looking at protecting livelihoods, preserving the developmental gains, and reduce fiscal pressures on our government. We have already initiated a pilot parametric coverage in one of the province states in the country. We have significant lessons to share with everyone, particularly from our crop insurance schemes, one of the largest in the world. We have microinsurance for women self-help groups and federations. We are now trying to integrate similar financial instruments into our heat action plans and urban resilience strategies. But we still face challenges of scalability with affordability. We are also facing challenges in generating awareness and building trust and in getting reliable data in place. So on behalf of Government of India, we assure the Presidency of our support on this important priority of addressing inequalities and reducing vulnerabilities, and in looking at concrete solutions in designing locally relevant, smart financial solutions to just add in the end, cash in hand and not hope in the heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, India. Let's move to Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Deputy Mayor, and all protocols, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by convey my deepest appreciation for the host arrangement for this meeting, also for the site event and also for the site visit meeting yesterday. Following the 2004 tsunami, Indonesia implemented debt relief and also the debt swap mechanism to support recovery efforts in Aceh, coordinated by the Rehabilitation and Reconstruction Agency for Aceh and NIAS. We remain deeply grateful to the partner countries whose solidarity made this possible. This experience reinforced our understanding of the critical value of a compendium that promotes accessible and also timely risk transfer solution for countries in crisis. Indonesia appreciates the inclusion of our good practices such as takaful insurance and also catastrophe bonds, CAT bonds, in the draft compendium of risk transfer solution aimed at enhancing timely access to liquidity at-risk communities. In addition, Indonesia has issued a ministerial regulation on agricultural insurance to protect farmers against crop failures caused by natural disaster, pests, climate change, and other risks. We also implement a state assets risk management scheme through the pooling fund mechanism to ensure public asset, supported by a legal framework under the Ministry of Finance. In 2018, Indonesia launched its Disaster Risk Financing and Insurance, or DRFI strategy, announced by the Vice President during the IMF World Bank Group annual meetings in Bali. This strategy combines multiple financial instruments to ensure timely, sustainable, and transparent disaster funding. Indonesia has also issued a presidential regulation on the Disaster Pooling Fund designed to provide funding across all disaster phases, pre-disaster, emergency responses, and post-disaster, while protecting public services and the national budget. While cat bonds have not yet been officially issued, they remain a potential tool in Indonesia DRFI roadmap. Challenges to their effective use include improving risk data, regulatory frameworks, and localized disaster modeling. Community-based programs like Disaster Resilient Villages and Safe School, along with on-call budget utilization, serve as platforms for pre-arranged risk transfer. Paired with the Adaptive Social Protection Framework as mandated in our National Medium-Term Development Plan, Indonesia is committed to foster inclusive resilience and stand ready to contribute further. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Indonesia. The next one,
Italy.
Italy. Over to you, Italy.
Thanks, Chairman. Italy thanks the South Africa Presidency for this compendium, which addresses a complex and high strategic topic. In Italy, disaster risk transfer is still addressed in a relatively limited way. One of the main experiences currently in place is represented by agriculture insurance systems, managed by our Minister of Agriculture in collaboration with regional authorities. These systems cover production losses caused by extreme weather events such as drought, frost, and hail. Although currently based on actually damage compensation, they are gradually evolving towards the climate index-based model, which allows for a quicker payout and more streamlined procedures, especially for drought-related risk. A recently important step forward is the introduction of requirements for all industries and companies to have insurance coverage against natural disaster damage. These measures aims to strengthen resilience and reduce dependence of emergency aid, and it has been progressively implemented from 2025 with different timelines based on company size. It also sends a strong signal in favor of a culture of prevention and wider use of risk transfer tools in private sector. Finally, Italy has not yet issued sovereign catastrophe bonds, but some Italian insurance companies have begun using these tools to transfer risk to capital markets. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Italy. Japan, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you for a comprehensive and informative presentation. It is indeed a very instrumental collection of risk transfer solutions, and I believe it is useful as a part of financing solutions, which was compiled in a compendium last year under the Brazilian presidency. Since this was presented under Priority 1, let me reiterate that in the context of this title Priority 1, addressing inequality and reducing vulnerabilities, the first and foremost priority is to reduce the risks per se. Let me reiterate that unless working on risk reduction, any facility of risk transfer does not function in ensuring long-term resilience. We commented at the online first meeting of this working group that under the Priority 1, the main issue to be highlighted is to ensure governance of each state government, including securing its own budget and other funding resources for reducing disaster risks through DRR investment, including resilient infrastructure in particular. So I would like to request that the issue note or other outcome document of this working group under this Priority 1 takes this into account. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. Let's go to Russia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I would like to welcome our colleagues from the Republic of South Africa as a chairman of the Working Group on Disaster Risk Reduction in the G20 format in 1995. I would like to emphasize once again that the main priority of South Africa's presidency, in particularly addressing inequality and reducing vulnerability, are very close and supported by the Russian Federation. We already have a positive experience of cooperation with our South African colleagues. During the 2024, we worked closely on the BRICS platform, and we hope that the experience of cooperation in the G20 format will be no less successful. The current reality
Okay. Okay, shall I continue? The current reality is that despite of efforts made by government and the national level, the economic damage and losses caused by disasters and calamities continue to grow steadily. There is, due to objective trends in the natural and climatic sphere, disproportion in the development of humanitarian settlement, and inequality in the economical and social development of states and region. In the current situation, the importance of developing the multilateral partnership between states cannot be overestimated. The Russian Federation is the active participant in international efforts to provide humanitarian assistance to states affected by disasters and crises. Humanitarian aid is provided both on the bilateral basis and through cooperation with relevant international organizations. Among the recipients of such assistance, African states occupied a priority places. At the Russian-African Summit held in 2023, a comprehensive roadmap for the implementation of the Russian-African Partnership Action Plan for the period from 2023 to 2026 was developed. In accordance with the provision of this roadmap, for example, a representative of interested African states get professional education and training at the Academia and the University of the Russian Ministry for Civil Defense and Emergency. We're still open to for cooperation, and we are ready to provide particular and methodological assistance to all interesting states. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Russia. Apologies for the technical glitches. We've asked our technical team to attend to it. The next one is Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the South African Presidency for their exceptional hospitality and warm welcome during our arrival and stay here in the beautiful city of Durban. Also for the arrangement of the site visit, which provided valuable information and experiences that shared. Saudi Arabia efforts to address these challenges are driven by Vision 2030 as one of its key pillars to enhance the areas of social development, social insurance, social safety nets, and labor market support programs, and initiatives aimed at addressing inequalities in education, healthcare, employment opportunities to improve their standard of living and ensure that all citizens benefit from the nation's growth. The G20 DRR working groups deliverables one compendium which offers risk transfer solutions and a well-rounded overview of types of insurance and financing strategies that would benefit countries, particularly developing countries, to address disasters. However, we would like to provide our reflections on the draft compendium. First, it's essential to recognize that climate-related disasters are a component of the broader category of disasters. Therefore, we should not isolate climate change-induced disasters from other natural disasters, such as earthquakes, volcanoes, landslides, and tsunamis, or various other disasters. Moreover, we want to emphasize the importance of implementing risk transfer solutions that ensure resilience at local and national level, considering the diverse national circumstances needed and priorities. Finally, we will be sending our written inputs and edits to the draft compendium posted. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We're now going to move to the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to start by offering the UK's sincere thanks to the Republic of South Africa for hosting us for this G20 meeting. We're deeply appreciative of your hospitality and the warm welcome we've received. The last few days have been fantastic to learn from each other during the side events and hear about the presidency's own advancements on the site visit yesterday. We congratulate the South Africa presidency for advancing the 6 priority areas and proposing robust deliverables, building on that achieved under Brazil and India's presidencies. We look forward to strengthening cooperation amongst member states to build disaster and climate resilience, which has never been more important. Regarding Priority 1, the UK supports the development of a compendium of risk transfer solutions, and thank you to Mr. Mukherjee for his presentation, which reflected on the need for solutions in both pre- and post-disaster scenarios. Considering the importance of preparedness, early and anticipatory action, which are key UK priorities, we welcome the use of pre-arranged finance as part of this. This is a proactive approach with benefits including speed, predictability, and reduced fiscal impact. As the G20, we should champion this shock-responsive approach, including through commitments to increase pre-arranged financing. This includes scaling up social protection systems and microinsurance for low-income households and informal workers, which can provide timely financial support to vulnerable populations and reduce inequalities by ensuring equitable access to resources among the most at-risk groups. Therefore, we welcome the inclusion of these mechanisms in the paper, particularly as it reflects paragraph 12 of the Ministerial Declaration, which we collectively agreed to promote innovative financing solutions to address the compounding effects of poverty and inequality. The UK really thanks the Presidency and UNDRR for ensuring that we have deliverables that are building on that which we agreed in Brazil last year. At the same time, we must acknowledge there is still some learning and evaluation that needs to take place to understand the impact of these different mechanisms. Therefore, I pose, could the G20 also consider how we can play a role in enhancing accountability to the affected populations and transparency of such instruments? A very quick final reflection is that given the financial focus of this priority, it would be good to explore synergies with other deliverables, including priority 4 on financing for DRR, just to ensure complementarity across the whole agenda. Thank you, Chair, for the floor.
Thank you very much, United Kingdom. Next on the line, I think we've concluded the G20 member states. We're now going to invite the invited member states, and we're going to give them 1 minute each. Can I get a sense of the invited member states who want to comment? Secretariat, please help us. The first invited member state to speak, can you assist with identifying them? Okay, we have Netherlands. Can we ask? Netherlands is not. Yeah. No, I'm looking at what is in front of me. Can we start with Netherlands? We'll come to others. Netherlands, please take it away. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Your Excellencies, delegates, dear colleagues, the Netherlands wishes to thank the Republic of South Africa, first of all, for inviting us to this important process. I would also like to thank for all the preparatory work done on the deliverables and for the excellent site visit that was provided yesterday. For the Netherlands, disaster risk reduction is a long-standing priority. If you look at our historical struggle against the sea and all the efforts we did to keep our feet dry, you could even say that it is at the very basis of our culture. However, changing climate conditions create new challenges, which require new strategies, new forms of cooperation, new forms of action, and new forms of knowledge sharing. And as the Netherlands, we are prepared and we are ready to partner in this and to learn from others. According to the compendium that we just looked at, there is a whole world to discover in the area of risk sharing and risk transfer solutions. I'd like to thank the Norwegian colleagues to bring this world together in the excellent high-level meeting last month. My country is involved as a donor in the African risk capacity, which we consider one of the leading instruments at this moment, leading the way to innovation and innovative insurance structures. Lastly, Chair, I would like to speak in support of the colleague of the UK. I'm not sure whether extra deliverables are still an option, but I surely believe that it is a good idea to summarize innovative approaches to get early warning organized, because this is also a moving and developing area. The Netherlands has an example to contribute here. At the World Water Forum a few years ago, we launched a program which is called Water at the Heart of Climate Action. A consortium was formed between national Red Cross, Red Crescent societies in Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Sudan, and South Sudan, and WMO, UNDRR, the soft instruments, the International Red Cross and the Dutch Red Cross. This consortium is covering the whole value chain of early warnings, providing the national societies with an entrance to knowledge and information which has been closed so far for them. Besides, the consortium provides the opportunity for locally led action in the 5 participating countries, optimizing the use of local assets and efficiency. So if we could include it in the deliverables or in an extra deliverable, summarize all of those very new, innovative approaches to get early warning organized, I think that would be a very good contribution to this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Netherlands, Ireland.
Working? Yeah. Good morning, everybody, and we thank the South African presidency for the invitation extended to Ireland to the G20 this year and for this initiative. We look forward in continuing Ireland's collaborative approach in strengthening overall responses and systems here in this working group. For Ireland, DRR is inextricably linked to our international development policy, in particular our priority to reduce humanitarian need and our commitment to strengthening DRR in line with the Sunday framework. Ireland's support strengthened responses include using a blend of funded mechanisms pre, during and post-disaster, whilst recognising that the frequency and severity of climate-related hazards pose unprecedented challenges for least developed countries, small island developing states and coastal communities, their biodiversity, cultures and economies. This priority and compendium is welcomed, which will assist in the global call to build resilience of systems before a disaster strikes to ensure those in need of support receive this whilst building resilient systems. Ireland are supporters annually to the Global Shield and SOF and mainstream resilience building through all of our international development policy, including humanitarian development and peace building initiatives. We welcome the emphasis of the compendium on climate and disaster risk instruments as methods of building resilience, in particular examples in post-disaster scenarios where cash can strengthen social safety nets and social assistance mechanisms where the context allows. We would also welcome synergy across the deliverables, in particular the high-level principles and framework, to ensure complementarity and commend the continued emphasis on those most vulnerable.
Thank you very much, Ireland. Let's go to Norway.
Thank you very much, Chair. And first of all, let me express my deepest gratitude to the South African presidency for the warm welcome to this beautiful country and for all the work that you've done to prepare this. We also like to acknowledge the work done to prepare this compendium. Risk transfer, as Norway said, should be part of the establishment national DRR system that is to the countries, specific to the countries, development context and need. And we would also like to emphasize that this is also a very important part of where we can have a private-public partnership, where also a lot of the private companies are included. However, we have some questions and some that we will follow up on this. Sometimes we believe that the simplest is the best. Many of the risk transfer solutions are rather complicated. And we believe that sometimes we need to find ways to find out how we can navigate among all solutions and all proposed suggestions for risk transfer solutions. How can we access these solutions is an important question, and are they suitable for the different countries, for the different communities to access? And we very much agree that we need to look further into this, but we appreciate the work done by Mr. Mukherjee and done on this, and we would be happy to follow up on this in a later stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norway. Let's go to Singapore.
Thank you. I would first like to thank South Africa for inviting Singapore to this important meeting and to this beautiful country. Singapore's crisis management approach emphasizes whole of society resilience and preparedness. Various government agencies are responsible for ensuring that all segments of the communities, especially the most at-risk communities, are supported before, during, and after a disaster. These government agencies set aside part of their budget as a contingency fund, allowing for these agencies to react promptly to low-severity disasters. For large-scale disasters, Singapore can leverage on the National Reserve. As an example, during COVID-19, Singapore drew down from the National Reserve to implement targeted support measures, especially for vulnerable groups. Hence, Singapore is supportive of the compendium of the risk transfer solutions to support most at-risk communities, and we look forward to learning from the working group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Singapore. Let's move to Spain.
Thank you very much. Spain would like to express its gratitude to South Africa and to the city of Durban for hosting us. The government of Spain welcomes the fact that the South African presidency has confirmed the priorities on which the G20 disaster risk group has been working on over the last year, adding the perspective of solidarity, equity, and sustainability. In this context, we highlight the role of insurance activity in the financing of disaster risk reduction, both as an investor and for its potential to prevent risk and favor resilient recovery, and would like to share the Spanish experience. Spain has a system of extraordinary risk coverage, which includes the main risks. It is established by law, managed by a public entity, and based on mandatory public-private cooperation through the inclusion of extraordinary risk coverage in all policies, freely contracted by policy holders with any insurance company referring to property damage, life and accident insurance, and possible loss of profits. The peculiarity of this system lies in its obligatory and universal nature, which provides a large coverage at a very affordable cost for policyholders. The system is self-sustainable and does not require any type of contribution from the budgets of any public administration. This type of system allows for greater insurance resilience in a context of climate change and without leaving anyone behind. The recent and tragic floods in Valencia in October 2024 are a good example of the importance of this insurance as a supplement to state support for those affected by disasters. I will just mention the last figures received from the insurance management. After 6 months since the floods, around 250,000 claims had been registered and more than 2.5 million euros paid as compensation for damages and losses suffered by the population. We are willing to share more information in connection with this deliverable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Spain. That concludes the invited member states. We're going to invite organizations that are here And again, I'm going to ask the Secretariat to assist to identify the organizations who are invited. Starting with FAO.
Thank you, Chair, for giving the floor to FAO. Thank you, the Presidency, for this invitation to this important meeting. FAO is pleased to contribute to the G20 process and to the compendium on risk transfer solutions to support vulnerable communities in both pre- and post-disaster scenarios. To give you a concrete example, FAO is leading the development of the global facility financing for shock-driven food crisis in close collaboration with the World Food Programme and the United Nations Offices for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. The facility will help to bridge the growing gap between humanitarian response and the urgent needs of community facing acute food insecurity due to multiple, recurrent, and often compound hazards. It integrates robust early warning system, real-time data, and FAO analytics on food security risk to trigger timely and scalable actions that reduce the impact of a shock on vulnerable population. By doing so, the facilities ensure that those most at risk receive timely support while building resilience and reducing long-term vulnerabilities. FAO remains committed to working closely with the Presidency and the G20 members to advance those priorities through concrete actions and initiatives. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, FAO. UNESCO.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, I would like to express our gratitude to the Republic of South Africa and its Department of Cooperative Governance for organizing this DRR working group meeting, and the Ethiopian Metropolitan Municipality for hosting it. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, we are honored to take the lead on the sixth priority related to ecosystems-based approach, which meaning nature-based solutions practically. And we hope to present to you tomorrow a little bit more details on this priority. UNESCO plays a multifaceted role in disaster risk reduction by fostering global cooperation, building capacity, and promoting knowledge sharing across various sectors within its mandate. And in particular, we're focusing on enhancing resilience through education, supporting the use of science and technologies, and integrating indigenous knowledge systems. We work, of course, with government, civil society, and other UN agencies to develop these policies and strategies for DRR. And we're extremely happy to be here among you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. UNESCO will go to CDRI.
Thank you, Chair. Troika representatives, distinguished delegates from G20 member countries, and colleagues from various international organizations. CDRI would like to sincerely thank the South Africa Presidency for giving the opportunity to participate in this DRR working group meeting. The Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, is a global partnership of national governments, multilateral development banks, UN agencies, programs, academia, and private sector working towards advancing the cause of disaster and climate resilient infrastructure. CDRI has 43 countries and 7 international organizations as its members. CDRI welcomes the compendium on risk transfer solutions. However, in addition to it, CDRI would like to advocate for building resilience of critical social and community infrastructures to reduce vulnerabilities of the at-risk communities. The ever-increasing dependence on services delivered by critical and social infrastructure systems covering water management, energy, waste management, health, housing, education, and others makes it imperative for infrastructure to be sustainable and resilient to realize the desired social and environmental impacts. Rethinking how infrastructure is planned, designed, built, and operated across critical and social infrastructure sectors and embedding resilience measures both at asset and system level can help reduce damage, disruption of services, and economic losses. CDRI works towards resilient infrastructure and infrastructure for resilience and strongly advocate towards building resilience of infrastructures, including nature-based infrastructure solutions with participation of local communities to reduce vulnerabilities and inequalities. CDRI is well positioned to leverage knowledge and technical support from its coalition members in this regard, and we look forward to the commitments of the G20 member countries to take forward this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CDRI. Next on the line is CDP.
Thank you, Chair. And on behalf of the Center for Disaster Protection, we'd like to thank the South African Presidency for rooting our work in solidarity, equality, and sustainable development this year. As the knowledge product highlights risk transfer solutions to address inequality and vulnerability, the working group plays a role in overcoming two challenges. The first is expanding the scale of these instruments, as affordability remains a key barrier to its uptake at the household and sovereign level, and supporting the quality of instruments, since effectiveness must go beyond cost alone. To advance both the scale and quality of prearranged financing, we encourage governments, multilateral development banks, and humanitarian organizations to compare instruments through value for money assessments. These assessments compare costs against policy goals like wider coverage for at-risk communities, reliable payouts for key risks, and connection to delivery systems like adaptive social protection. We published a value for money assessment last Friday, which we are happy to share, and we look forward to working with you all over the coming year. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CDP. OECD is next.
Thank you, Chair. The OECD welcomes South Africa's prioritisation of DRR in the G20 at a time when the impacts of disasters are being felt acutely around the world. The OECD can support this agenda, leveraging our data and analysis to ensure progress is evidence-based and calibrated to the needs of vulnerable groups. On average, women and girls face higher risks than men in disaster contexts. For example, women often have more limited savings and bank account access compared to men. Financial access is a key coping and recovery tool in households during and after disaster events. Strengthening women's financial resilience, especially in developing countries, is essential to remedying this asymmetric exposure to risks. The OECD's gender databases provide evidence-based assessments on gender-inclusive disaster risk reduction. For example, our Social Institutions and Gender Index database tracks the root causes of gender discrimination in 179 countries and can help the G20 understand how gender interacts with disaster contexts. We stand ready to draw upon these tools to support G20 DRR efforts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, OECD. And that concludes invited organizations. At this stage, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude this session. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the Executive Mayor of eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality and the Deputy Mayor of eThekwini Municipality for blessing this session and for welcoming us. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the presenters, Mr. Mokaji, that is a very brilliant presentation. We will engage with it. We'll study it. I think there is a growing interest in that presentation. I want to also take this opportunity to thank the member states for their contribution, the invited states for their contribution, and also the organizations, invited organizations, for their contributions. We're going to take a comfort break of 30 minutes. Maybe we can shorten it to 20 minutes because we are running behind schedule by 30 minutes. We'll take a deep break, comfort break, and we'll come back here at 10 minutes before 12 o'clock. My colleague, Mr. Yagan Deisel, is going to chair the next session up until lunchtime. And then after lunch, he will hand over to Mr. Ngubane, who is the head of the Municipal Disaster Management Center here at Tekwini. He is going to chair the afternoon session. The next session will be chaired by the acting head of the National Disaster Management Center in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a comfort break, a tea break. We'll come back just shortly before 12 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Hello?
They said
two, two,
One, two. One, one, two.
one, two,
Yeah. One,
one, two,
one, two. Yeah. Yeah. One, two. Yeah. One, two.
two, one, two,
Yeah. One, two. Yeah. One, two.
one, two,
One, two.
one, two,
Two.
one, two,
Two. One, two. Two. One, two.
one, two,
Two. One, two. Two. One, two.
one, two,
Two. One, two.
one, two,
Two.
one, two,
Two.
one, two,
Yeah.
one, two,
One, two. One, two. Yeah.
one, two,
Yeah. One, two.
one, two, one, two,
Yeah. One, two. One, two. One, two. Yeah. One, two.
one, two,
One, two.
one, two, one, two,
One, two.
one, two,
One, two.
one, two, one, two,
Two. two. Yeah, one, two.
Good afternoon, colleagues. We plan to start in about 2 minutes or so. If you can take your seats. So, colleagues, let's start with session 2, dealing with priority 2 on global coverage of early warning systems. I just want, before we start with the session, I just want to make 1 or 2 announcements. I think the first announcement that I would like to make is that we would invite the countries that are making inputs to provide, if you have a written version of your input, is to provide it to the Secretariat. It will assist us not only to, to capture in detail the information that you are providing in the input, but also to a large extent the context in which it's provided. It will assist us also to then go through the respective documents and see how we need to adjust the inputs that are made, or the presentations and the proposals. We also is going to ask the Secretariat to send through a case study template through which the knowledge partners would be able to develop and obtain case studies from the respective countries, to highlight best practices that we feel and that you feel can enhance, the sessions and the inputs, so that when we develop these documents going further, that these case studies are included. So with that said, it's my pleasure to call Mrs. Vanessa Gray, the Head of Climate and Embassy Telecommunications from ITU, here to make a presentation on the global coverage of early warning systems. Over to you, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Yes? It's working? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank, of course, the South African government for this great opportunity to talk about scaling up cell broadcast for last mile early warnings delivery. Because we see cell broadcast as an incredible opportunity and also an important pillar of the Early Warnings for All initiative. Just very briefly, so the internet, a few words about the International Telecommunication Union, which is the UN specialized agency for digital technologies. Our main mandate is to make sure that we help the world communicate and to make sure that the benefits and the opportunities of digital technologies are available for everyone, and that is of course also very relevant to early warning systems. With the spread of digital technologies, there are new opportunities that we need to take advantage of. ITU is a little bit of a special organization because apart from the 194 member states, we also have what we call over 1,000 sector members, and that is particularly digital companies, private sector companies. So we very much see our role as ensuring that we can build on public-private partnerships and that we take advantage of these the services of these private companies for the delivery of early warning systems. I will not go into much detail because I think everyone here is aware of the UN Early Warnings for All initiative that was launched in 2022 with a very ambitious objective that is, of course, to ensure that everyone on Earth is protected by an early warning system. ITU is responsible for the pillar 3, so that is the warning, dissemination and communication piece. This means that once we know that something is happening, how do we ensure that those people at risk actually receive the alert, receive the warning and know what they need to do in that specific situation? Within our work, the main or the most important approach that we have is a multi-channel approach, which means any communication channel that is available, we need to take advantage of. Radios, television, sirens, community-based systems, internet, social media, everything we have, we need to take advantage of. This is very important, especially recognizing the diversity of the communities and the people that we need to reach. However, that said, we do believe that there is a particular, I would say, a low-hanging fruit or an opportunity of using digital networks and especially mobile early warning systems and cell broadcast. And I will say a little bit more about cell broadcast and how that works. But the main idea is that governments send alerts over the mobile networks, which means they need to work with the mobile network operators to reach people. And this is so important today because the technology of cell broadcast has existed for a very long time. It's not a new or a fancy technology, but what is different today is the reach of mobile phones and mobile networks, which really opens up unprecedented opportunities. And we have the figures here. 98% of the